Alright, YouTubers, I am going to do another update on my '04 Dodge Ram 1500 that is LS swapped. So, if you guys have seen my other videos, I am recently doing a 5-speed manual swap in this. I tossed the, I had a 4L60E in it and I had it built, but obviously automatic just ain't fun. So I am manually swapping it. This is how far I'm getting so far. But the reason why I'm making this video is because I've had people ask me, quite a bit of people actually asked me how I did this. Now, this is unbelievably simple. And all it took was imagination on how to make, just know how everything works. So use your imagination on how to make it work. So I'm gonna kind of do a little rundown. Everybody seems to know how I got the transmission and the motor in here. I did use, if you haven't seen my other videos, check them out, but I'll say it right now, I used, this truck originally came with a 4.7. I reused the 4.7 motor mounts, and I just re-drilled the holes on the motor mounts, and this motor literally sat right in there. And I can show you all the clearances underneath and whatnot. And for the tranny mount, my garage is a mess and I am dropping shit. What the fuck? But this right here, obviously if you know Chevys, this is the tranny mount. Now what I did, I took a 1/4 inch thick piece of steel to move the motor mount back 2 inches. I just bolted it up. Just bolted up there. So this 1/4 inch thick piece of steel bolts up to the transmission, and the motor mount or transmission mount bolts up to that and then drops right into the cross member. So that's how I did that. Just a quick rundown. And then that is my tranny cross member. I just slotted them on both sides, just so I knew that they'll drop in, but I didn't make them super wide or anything like that. But it's held up. There's nothing wrong. It's not cracking. It's not doing anything stupid. I just slotted it. So, and I have beat the piss out of this truck a couple of times, so, and it doesn't phase it. So anywho, now on to wiring on how I did the motor. I'm going to try making this video short, sweet, and simple to the point. Hopefully I can. Most likely I'll get trailed off. I always did. Get my stepping stool here. Alright. So, the wiring on this. This is the Dodge's fuse block. Now, if you have a Dodge, you already know, yes, that is the fuse block. Over there, I have the Chevy's fuse block, which I am going to tell you right now, do not use a factory fuse block. It is, look at that. Big, bulky, ugly piece of shit. Do a standalone. It's a tiny little fuse box with a couple of relays and a couple of fuses. That has all the relays, all the fuses throughout for an entire Chevy. Don't need that, but I was in a hurry to get this project done because this truck was actually my daily driver. So I used what I could and to make it work. And I found people that actually knew or actually done this before on the internet that actually did the factory fuse block. But that is the Chevy's PCM right there. But we'll go back a little bit. The Dodge's wiring harness for the engine and the PCM is no longer in this truck. The whole wiring harness and the whole PCM in this engine bay is gone. It is nothing but the Chevy's wiring. And Chevy's wiring is one gigantic piece. All you do is unbolt the battery and then unbolt your fuse block, unhook all the sensors and the grounds, and the Chevy's whole wiring harness will pull out. You don't have to. I bought a motor for my girlfriend's Silverado and from a junkyard, and the jackasses snipped all the wires. Now, if they would have just unhooked the sensors and the grounds and the power wire and the fuse block, it all would have came out in one big piece, which I was hoping for, but no, they did it quickly and just snipped all the wires, so I didn't get a extra wiring harness, which that's what I wanted. I wanted another wiring harness because I want to switch to a standalone, because I had to kind of shorten and stretch wires in this factory harness to make it work, because everything's flip-flop, because obviously in a Chevy that fuse block is actually on the driver's side, so all the wires that were supposed to be on this side I had to stretch out, and the wires for this side I had to shorten and stretch out for that side, or whatever. You know what I mean. I just had to stretch out each side because that fuse block was on this side. So anyways, this wire right here is the Dodge's power wire to the fuse block, the Dodge's fuse block. So that's how I ran that, and then I just kept the grounds. This is the Dodge's grounds. I mean, body ground, chassis ground, motor ground. So I just left those alone, those grounds alone. So this is actually going to the Dodge's fuse block. This power wire is going up and over to the Chevy's fuse block, and then from the Chevy's fuse block, it's got a power wire running down to the starter. So from there, up and over to the over there, and then down to the starter. So there's your power to your fuse block. Now, I'm gonna try, where's my light at? I'm gonna try using a light and try getting my phone down in there. You could take this fuse block out, but I'm not going to do that because I really don't want to. So I'm gonna see if I can get you guys to peek down in here. I'm hoping I can get you guys in there. Ugh. Can't really see shit. Okay. So, if I can get in there just a little bit better. Kind of doing this from below. But you see there's a blue butt connector on the right side to a yellow wire. Now that yellow wire right there, you see on the right hand side, I'm going to try pointing at it a little bit. It's like right above my light. That is a yellow wire that goes to the Dodge's fuse block. Now me and a buddy used a wire tester and went through all these wires underneath here to figure out what was what, or what could work. So that yellow wire underneath this fuse block is a crank wire. Now I'll get to that. And then there is another one underneath here. Where is it at? Is this it right here? Well, yes it is. Now this wire, it's a pink. I don't know if you can see that right here. This wire right here. That wire, it's a pink, or it's a white, or yeah, it's a pink wire with a white stripe underneath the Dodge's fuse block. This wire and that yellow wire, I snipped them from underneath here and added a wire to it. This pink wire with a white stripe and a solid, I believe that is solid, I have it taped up a little bit, it's a solid yellow wire. Now, get out of here a little bit. So now, the pink wire with the white stripe, I have it ran up and over to the Chevy's fuse block, to the ignition wire. So when I turn the Dodge's key on to ignition, it fires up this fuse block, and it fires up that fuse block. So all the relays and all the gadgets turn on. So everything turns on. And then the yellow wire I ran up and over to the starter. So that is my crank wire. That yellow wire is my crank wire. So it's just a single wire running up and over all the way to the starter. So that is my crank. The pink with the white stripe is my ignition wire to fire up all the relays. So when I turn my key on, the fuel pump will kick on and everything else. Now, how to make the fuel pump work, I have a fuel pump wire, or a relay wire, ran from the Chevy's fuse block back over to this side. And then I have it ran, you take this inner fender well out of these Dodges, it's just plastic. But right behind here, there is a wire. Now if I see it, I'll remember what color it is. So from the Chevy's fuse block up and over here, it is, all right, you see that orange wire right there, orange wire with a red stripe. Orange wire with red stripe is the fuel pump power wire. So I snipped it up there a little higher, up in there behind this tire tub, plastic tire tub doodad. I have it snipped up there and spliced in to the wire that runs down and runs all the way to the fuel pump. So when I turn the key ignition on, the fuel pump kicks on. Now I am using the Dodge's factory fuel pump. A Chevy just needs 58 pounds of fuel pressure at idle. I checked it, I'm at 61, 62. So, and that's not really a big deal. It's no problem at all. It can be up a little high. The Dodge's fuel regulator is already in the fuel sending unit, so just hook that wire from the fuse block down and behind here, just take the tire tub out and then snip the wire and then splice that wire into it so it's ran the rest of the way, you know. And then I ran my fuel rail. My Dodge did not have a return line for the fuel. It just had a feeder line because of the regulators already in the fuel sending unit. So this fuel rail is actually off of a 6.0. I don't know what year my buddy bought a 6.0 for his 82 Camaro. So I bought this fuel rail off of them. The injectors are the same exact injectors as the 5.3. So I just put this fuel rail on and then ran a 3/8 steel braided line with a quick connect end and then ran it down along the chassis and then had another quick connect end and then clipped it right into the fuel tank. Yes, I know I don't have a fuel filter in it right now at this moment, so it's just a straight line all the way up. It's a 3/8. So there's my fuel. I'm getting plenty of fuel. I'm running 61 pounds of fuel pressure. Now, that's pretty much it. That's all I did. 2 wires from the Chevy's fuse or the Dodge's fuse block up and over for the ignition to power up the relays, and then 1 to the starter for crank. So the Dodge's fuse panel is cranking the motor, and then it is also powering up the Chevy's fuse block. And then, you know, we got the power wire from the battery up and over and then down to the starter. That's pretty much it. And it'll start. But of course, you guys are into LS swapping and are already thinking about doing it. You already know you have to reprogram the PCM because of the VATs. You got to clear them VATs, which I sent my computer off first and had a guy clear it and then retune it because I already have a comps cam in this. Comps extreme energy cam, dual valve springs, push rods, dual timing chain in this motor. So I had him send me a tune, but I later on a couple of months ago spent $650 for the HP Tuners Pro package. So I do my own tuning a little bit, or at least I'm trying to. I'm still learning. I have a buddy that knows a guy that did the HP Tuner school, so I'm gonna have him I'm gonna try meeting up with him sometime and have him teach me a little bit more. I mean, I know the basics. I mean, Chevy's PCMs are pretty easy to figure out. I mean, it took me a little while, but once I figured out how everything works, it's pretty simple. I mean, everything just works together. Everything works pretty easy. But anyways, this is the Chevy's upper radiator hose. This is not the Dodge's. This is the Chevy's. I use the Chevy's upper radiator hose and Chevy's lower radiator hose. That one was a little bit of a tight fit to get on the water pump of the Chevy, but that is the Chevy's, or yeah, to get on the radiator. I meant the lower radiator hose is the Chevy's, and it was a kind of a pain in the ass because this is actually the Dodge's radiator, so it's kind of a pain in the ass to get it on the radiator. But the top one was a piece of cake, you know, whatever. But this is the Dodge's radiator. This is the Dodge's power steering pump, AC, but it's not, obviously not hooked up. I don't really care for AC. That's what you got windows for. Roll them down. And then for the power steering pump, get my light to work here. For the power steering pump, I used a little hose and then put a brass fitting that goes from small to bigger, because obviously the Dodge's power steering hose is freaking ginormous. So I went from small brass fitting to a bigger size, or like one small size, one bigger. I forgot what size I went. I think I went from a 3/8 to a 5/8 or something like that, if I remember correctly. And then the Dodge's other power steering hose, that's right here, wrapped up and around on the chassis. This one right here, screwed right onto the back of the Chevy's power steering pump. I just twisted it up and over, and then screwed it right in the back. It's not hurting it. There's no stress on it. It's just settling there right now. So, and it's not flopping around or nothing. But it is screwed onto the back of the Chevy's power steering pump. So that's your power steering. Now, on to interior-wise. You already got your motor running. No problem. OBD2. Figure out what the Chevy's OBD2 wiring diagram is. It's all over the internet. Go to lt1swap.com. I mean, there's pinouts and everything like that for the OBD2 and the and for the PCM. But it's just like 2 grounds, 1 power, 1 brain. So I ran a wire from here all the way up to the PCM, and then just grounded the other 2 wires, and then had a power wire and just hooked it up underneath the dash. Now, for interior wise, you cannot use the Dodge's gauge cluster, because the Dodge's gauge cluster was actually ran into the Dodge's PCM, which is no longer in this truck. So what I did was pop the plastic piece, popped it off, and then carefully drilled a hole right there, and then right above, I don't know if you can see that, yeah, you can kind of see it right above the GPS, and then right over here, and then took 2 tubes and then super glued them, and then put the plastic piece back over top of them, and then kind of epoxied it a little bit to try making it look nice. I tried. I did the best that I can. So when I turn my blinkers on, this one lights up, and then when I turn my brights on, this one will light up, and then when I want to go right, that one lights up. So there's my blinkers. And then this is my GPS. You know, I can turn it on, you know, whatever. I'm not going to turn it on because I have the battery unhooked. But I mean, I have it ran down to here, so it's constantly charging. But that's my GPS. That tells me my speed and whatnot, and how many miles. As of right now, I wonder if it'll turn on. Hey, it'll turn on. Come on. Quickly now, quickly. Quickly. Trying to make this video as short as possible. Click OK. Yeah, sure. Yes, I figured. I just go to, whoops. yeah, view map, and then I pick speed, click speed. I'm not getting a signal right now because I'm in a garage, but right here would tell me my speed. As of right now, that's how many miles my truck actually has. Oh, there everything popped up. Tells me where I'm heading to, my max speed. Yeah, ignore that part. That's not very fast, but I mean, I wasn't going balls to the wall though either. You know, I wasn't trying to go as fast as I can. I'm pretty sure this truck would hit 120, 130 pretty easy. I got a lot of RPMs I can go. So, but anywho, yeah. Technically, this truck had, when the motor blew, it had 172,000 miles on it. But this is the miles I'm going by now. That's how many miles my truck has. And it's not a bad truck or anything like that. It doesn't have rotted out rockers. There's not really, I could try showing you. Just a little bit of rust just starting. But the rockers are all there. All there. Even back. Rocker is all there. Little cancer starting. No big deal. So someday I'm going to end up redoing this truck anyway. But it doesn't have any holes, so I got to do it here pretty soon before that rust ends up becoming a hole. But anywho, like I said, I'm putting a 5-speed manual in this now. I'm tired of automatic. So I cut a hole, and I'm going to make a remote shifter that goes from the tower, and then a rod that comes back and over a little bit. And then I'm going to have a shifter sitting like right about in here. Somewhere right around here. And I did move my center console back. So, you know, I can put my arm up and then have my shifter sitting right here so I can be nice and comfy and whatnot. I might move the center console up forward probably about 2 or 3 inches, but yeah. But that's but since the gauge cluster doesn't, back to the gauge cluster, since the gauge cluster doesn't work, so I put a RPM tack in here. I like my RPM tacks huge. I don't know why people think it's butt ugly, but I like them big. I like to see them. I even got a light and whatnot. And then I ran the wire, cut a little notch out, and then ran the wire behind the dash and everything. And then I got my water temp, oil pressure, and then fuel gauge. My fuel gauge doesn't work. I still haven't figured out how to hook that damn thing up to it. I have a buddy that knows how to do it, but we haven't got together to do it. So, and he says it's a piece of cake, but whatever. So, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much how I got this truck to work. Drive shaft wise, rear drive shaft I cut down. I did not use the Chevys, I used the Dodges because the Dodges is steel, Chevys is aluminum. I've been told that the Chevy's aluminum drive shaft has been known to explode. So I kept the Dodge's steel one. The rear one is cut down 2 inches and the front one's cut down 2.5 inches. Shorter. Both of them are shorter. Rear is 2 inches shorter. Front is 2.5 inches shorter. I am using a manual. Now, that 5.3 I got out of the GMC was auto 4-wheel drive. So I had to change the transfer case to a floor shift, and I just took the Dodge's floor shifter linkage and the Chevys, cut them both in half, and then I welded them together, and then it worked pretty damn good. But obviously I don't have it hooked up because I'm still working on the transmission right now. But trying to hurry up as quickly as possible. Well, I got the transmission in. That is a NV 3500 5-speed 4-wheel drive out of a half-ton Chevy pickup out of a 95, and it bolted right up. Now I'm using an eBay clutch, and it's a cheap piece of shit. Hopefully it works. I watched some videos of people using eBay clutches, and some of them were saying that they're hit and miss, and others were saying that they've been having good luck with them. So I figured, well, what the hell, $150 for a stage 1 clutch. I figured, what am I out, some time and a little bit of money, instead of going out and spending $450 for a stage 1 or stage 2 clutch. That's a name brand, whatever. But anyways, I haven't got my clutch master cylinder in yet, but this Dodge is an automatic, and it had that clutch spot for it. So it's like it was meant to be. So that's one thing good about Dodge, you can change them out. But anyways, I figured to make this video, you know, kind of explain how I did this. Hopefully I explained it as easy as, or as best as I can, you know, I did the best I can. So hopefully you understand. I mean, it is beyond simple. Yeah, it is beyond simple. The Chevy's motor is on its own fuse block, and the interior is on its own. For the Dodge's gauge cluster, again, I forgot to mention that you cannot unhook it. That's why I left it in there, because when you unhook it, your headlights, blinkers, and interior lights and a bunch of other crap won't work. Your hazards will actually start going off as soon as you unplug them. So that's why I left it in there. I didn't want to rip all the wiring out of this truck and completely rewire this truck. So I just left it. And it made it simple. So hopefully this video helps you out. If you have any more questions, just let me know and I'll try making another video if you have more questions. Most likely you guys might have more questions that I might have forgot. So I'm gonna wrap this up for right now. It's cold as shit out right now. So we'll talk to you later, guys. Like and subscribe.